Hello class, my name is Jessica Scheevel, and this is my project for our historical nonfiction unit. For my project, I've chosen to focus on the Great Depression. For my first book, I chose Children of the Dust Bowl, The True Story of the School at Weed Patch Camp by Jerry Stanley. This book is the story of a group of people from Oklahoma called Okies who left their homes after the Dust Bowl to find work and new lives in California. This book is good because it gives real-life accounts with quotes by people who experienced it. So it allows, instead of just hearing a summary of the story of the Dust Bowl, it allows children to hear from people who were actually there and who actually had to live through it. This book also uses period photographs, so it takes pictures from the actual Dust Bowl of people who actually had to experience it in their homes and what happened, and it allows a child to see it and to imagine as if they were there instead of just coming up with a picture in their heads. I would recommend this book for children between the ages of 8 and 12. My second book is called The Great Depression by Michael Bergen. This book gives an account of what happened in the Great Depression, ranging from the stock market crash to the Second New Deal, and then about the results of what happened after the Great Depression. This book is good because it gives a brief description of the highlights and it gives them in terms that young children could understand. This book is bad for a similar reason because the descriptions are so brief. It gives each event in about 2 pages with pictures, so it's not very much information at all. And while it captures the kid's attention by not giving too much information, it does give too little. And so therefore I would recommend this book for a younger child because it introduces them to the idea of the Great Depression, while later in their elementary school years they could learn about it in more detail. This book also uses period photographs, and just like the other one, it allows the child to see pictures of what's being talked about in the book. The third book is called The Dust Bowl, an Interactive History Adventure by Alison LeSueur. And this book is a fiction book, but it allows children to imagine they are in the midst of the Dust Bowl. So it leads children through the options of different decisions they can make and the consequences of their choices. So because it's an interactive book, kids can read a short little blurb in the story, and then at the end of it they make a decision. And then based on that, they are sent to another spot where it tells them the consequences of the decision they made. It is good because it allows the child to put themselves in the shoes of someone who is here and to imagine as if they were in it themselves and what choices they would make and to see what the consequences of these actions would be. This book also uses period photographs to show the consequences and a picture of the consequences that these kids are and these people who experience the actual Dust Bowl are receiving. I would also recommend this book for kids between the ages of 8 and 12. My fourth book is called Children of the Great Depression, and this book is by Russell Friedman. It describes the life of kids during the Great Depression, and it ranges from what the kids did for fun and how they entertained themselves without having all these expensive toys. And then it also talks about children who had to drop out of school and go to work because their parents just needed the extra money. So this book is good because it talks all about children. So children reading this can imagine their peers and people their own age and what they had to experience, which is better because most kids learn all about the adults and what the adults experienced during the Great Depression, and they really just, it's not as interesting as learning about someone their own age. So this book also uses period photographs, mostly of children, but also of their homes and other experiences the children had. This book I would recommend for a little bit of an older crowd, probably between 10 and 13, because there are some terms that probably a younger child such as 8 or 9 would not understand. But it is pretty much good for anyone within a older elementary school age, and I think kids would really enjoy this book. My last book is called Years of Dust, The Story of the Dust Bowl by Albert Marin. This book describes the Dust Bowl and how people had to cope to survive. It is a good book because it gives a lot of information and is somewhat like a textbook, but it is more reader-friendly as it more addresses the reader instead of just giving off information. It is bad, though, because it is very long and it is somewhat boring. I got kind of bored reading it personally, and it would not hold a child's attention for very long because it is so much information and is not as much entertainment. It also uses period photographs, and I would recommend it for about 8 to 12, but probably on the older end of that because it is so much information. Out of all these books together, I would probably most recommend the interactive adventure because I know as an elementary school student, I love to learn by experiencing it myself and making decisions myself, and those are the lessons I learn the most instead of just learning straight information. So comparing all of them, though, that would be the one I would enjoy the most. But all these books are great books, give lots of information, and kids would enjoy them. Thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a great night.